Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from whichever part of the world that you're watching from. And welcome to this World Water Week's talk show, which is all about maximizing potential. And we'll be looking into the multiple impacts of nature-based solutions on watershed health. Now, today's talk show is brought to you by the Nature Conservancy. We're very happy to have you here with us, whether that's, watching from home, online, from wherever in the world you are, but also to all those of you that are present here in the room with us in Stockholm. I'd say a very warm welcome. And thank you so much for tuning in. It always underlines the importance of the topic, is what I always say, so it's good to have you here with us. Now, my name is Hajar Yacoubi. I'm a former United Nations Youth Representative for the Netherlands, but above all, I am delighted to be your moderator for these upcoming 20 minutes, and not the least of which because we'll be diving into a very important topic. So, as I mentioned, today's session is all about exploring how different sectors are increasingly more engaged in nature-based solutions, which is imperative if we want to tackle global challenges. But today is really about showcasing examples of how nature-based solutions can, positively impact water security, climate action, biodiversity, socioeconomics, and much more. And right now on the screen, you're able to see some of these benefits of nature-based solutions already displayed out for the people here in Stockholm that is on the screen. I will say right away, if you scan the QR code of this slide, it will bring you to many different resources surrounding those benefits and impacts of nature-based solutions. So scan now or forever hold your peace, folks. That is a joke, though. We will be showcasing it at the end, so no worries. We'll be back with the slide again. But for now, I would say let's turn to our stellar panel that we have here with us today that can tell us much more about the topic. I'm very delighted to be joined today by, first of all, Thomas Maddox. You are the Director of Nature at CDP, Carbon Disclosure Project, which is a global nonprofit that really drives environmental disclosure to reduce emissions, protect water, forests, tackle pollution. So from that perspective, very happy to have you here with us. Then we are also joined by Kari Vigerstol, Science Director at the Nature Conservancy, which is a global environmental conservation nonprofit. Very happy to have you in our midst as well. And then last but not least, on my right, I am joined by Grégoire Descamps, who is the Innovation Director on Water Regeneration at Veolia, an environmental service corporation and leader in water waste and energy management. Very happy to have you here. Now, a lot that we'll be diving into today, but before we do all of that, Kari, I was wondering if I could start with you by asking what initially prompted the decision for nature-based solutions as a topic for today?
Well, for us, conservation is really core to what we do as a global conservation organization, and nature-based solutions is something that we're really driving towards mainstreaming in the water sector, given all of the potential to deliver on water security outcomes and a whole multitude of other kinds of benefits. Yeah. We have a resilient watershed strategy at the Nature Conservancy. We're really driving towards delivering on this mainstreaming by working with other partners across society on policy, practice, and finance.
Yeah.
And so we're supporting policymakers, development finance institutes, regulators, and corporations, as well as having on-the-ground flagship projects and providing capacity building and technical assistance to other organizations to help drive this forward.
Really to drive it forward. But then in essence, of course, it's a core part of what you guys are also representing, what you're working on. If I would look at Thomas and Grégoire, look at your respective organizations, could you tell us more about how you're involved with nature-based solutions? Maybe Thomas, if you'd like to go first.
Sure, thanks, Hajar. So, as you mentioned at the beginning, what we want to do is we want to track environmental performance of companies and other economic actors. So we're looking at what sort of environmental relationships they have, and then what are they doing about managing those relationships. So nature-based solutions are obviously one of the key ways that you can use to manage some of these impacts and dependencies. So we're interested in when companies are applying that kind of response.
Yeah. And maybe just to follow up on that, because at the very core, right, you're saying we're aiming to gain more transparency about that. And then the entire idea is that you go from transparency to transformation. And sometimes, we get stuck at disclosure. How do you sort of make sure that people are also following up on?
So exactly, we see disclosure as a key sort of requirement for driving change.
Right.
So we kind of do two things. One of the things is driving more disclosure, getting companies to be more open about how they're performing at the moment, where they're doing well, where they're not doing so well. But then it's about making sure those data feed into decision making.
Right.
So this could be decision making by the companies themselves, it could be by their investors, by their buyers, and so on.
Yeah, yeah, thank you so much. Grégoire, from the perspective of Veolia, how are you involved with nature-based solutions?
Sure. So as a water utility, we have the responsibility to find the best solution to any water challenge. And today, our main challenge is really climate adaptation regarding water. We tend to actually extend our scope of work from the small urban water cycle to the large natural water cycle in order to protect our existing grey infrastructure, our existing potable water treatment plant, but also wastewater treatment plant. And actually, NBS are very complementary to those existing assets. For example, they could be upstream, a wastewater treatment plant, to manage rainwater and avoid any flooding. But they could be also downstream, a wastewater treatment plant as a tertiary treatment, but also as a way to recharge aquifer against drought.
And in what way? Do you have any specific examples of how that is being done?
Yeah, we have actually many examples of NBS that actually we do operate. I could give you some of them. For example, a wetland in Spain that enables to remove 80% of the pollution, like suspended solid nitrogen, pesticides as well. But at the same time, it's a very nice, let's say, biodiversity reserve with many birds, species, etc. But there are also other examples that enable to store water. I have an example in mind in France where we store more than 80,000 cubic meter of water, enabling to avoid any flooding event for 20 years.
So those are already some preliminary mentions. We'll be diving into those examples later on more so, because the impacts that you're mentioning right there, 80% reduction, those are big numbers, and that really goes to show the effectiveness of it. Thomas, if I can go back to you, I mean, from CDP's perspective, you're engaged with so many corporations, companies, because of, diving deeper into disclosure. When we talk about the risks that companies see in the water space, what are some of the things that you sort of can already detect? And do you feel like nature-based solutions is that an upward trend that companies are more so involved with, or are we not there yet? Where are we sort of in, the acceleration of that being mainstream?
So to address the first part of that on the risks, so that is something that we explicitly ask companies, what are the key risks that they're perceiving? The key ones that are coming back are the physical risks. So it's the acute physical risk, it's the risk of drought, it's the risk of flooding, it's the chronic risks, so it's the risks of changes in precipitation, access to clean water, these kind of things. And then the third one in there is regulation. They're the sort of three biggest risks, and reputation comes a little bit behind that. So they're the big risks, and they're important because I think those physical risks, they are the kind of risks that nature-based solutions are actually particularly good at addressing. In terms of the second part of your question, in terms of how companies are responding, we always push companies to be as transparent as possible. So I should be as transparent as possible as well, and say that this isn't an area that we explicitly ask on. So we look through the data and we say, what are your risks? How are you responding? And from that, we can pull out, which of those responses can kind of count as nature-based solutions. So this isn't necessarily a comprehensive survey where companies are on nature-based solutions. But having said that caveat, the one thing it does show is that not many companies are applying nature-based solutions, or at least they're not disclosing to us that they are. So if you look at the water data, last year we had a little under 5,000 companies disclosing on water. Of those, only 13 were saying that they had specific nature-based solution responses or targets set. Having said that, the numbers that are saying that they were going to be doing something in this area was a little higher, but we're still talking about 1%, that kind of area. So it's a small number of companies, at least the way we ask the question, that are disclosing they're using nature-based solutions.
But that is, to me, that's quite striking, because I mean, many sessions that have taken place, about nature-based solutions. If I listen to you guys, it's, there are so many benefits to it. It's cost-effective. It's something that is so efficient also in addressing these issues. As you said, it addresses directly a lot of the risks that they're dealing with. So, what is sort of needed for corporations to then take that opportunity and see an opportunity in implementing nature-based solutions? I don't know, Kari, if that's something that you can speak to, or somebody else.
Yeah, it's a great question, right? Because we're hearing and we know that nature-based solutions have the ability to deliver on a lot of these water security goals, water quality, water quantity, as well as the other co-benefits such as biodiversity and climate mitigation, adaptation, as well as human health and well-being outcomes, which a lot of these companies are interested in those other benefits as well. And in fact, when we work with companies on implementing NBS, a lot of them are really interested in tracking those other co-benefits. And I think what we're seeing is that as we increase our ability to track those co-benefits, there's more and more investment because there's more of a business case around nature-based solutions. So I think that's a really important aspect, is being able to account for those different co-benefits. But also I think, the evidence, there is evidence out there. We've got lots of great projects. You've heard about a couple of them. But I think there's still this perception that that the evidence is, there's a disparate level of evidence. And I think it's because it's from one place to another, the magnitude of benefits really varies. And so it's very context dependent, and I think that's sometimes a challenge. But we know that these work, and I think we just need to continue working on building that clarity, building up the technical knowledge, continuing to monitor those projects, but also addressing some of the other challenges around financing in order to scale up nature-based solutions, and capacity building on nature-based solutions is also a challenge.
Yeah, Gregor, I see you nodding. Is that something that resonates with you? How do you look at the challenges and opportunities?
No, I fully agree with Kari. Actually, I would say that the main challenge that comes to my mind is really the lack of awareness and trust, right, around NBS.
Trust? How come?
Yeah, because there is this picture that the engineering and green infrastructure will always do better. It does in some cases. It's true. We will never do everything with NBS. But in some other cases, NBS could be very efficient as well, even cheaper, even more efficient. So we are working on this lack of awareness. So towards local authorities, industries, but also internally in Veolia, we have some job to do. There is also definitely sometimes a lack of public incentives. I would even add that sometimes we face a fragmentation within the public authorities. To give you working in silo. To give you an example, you may have one department dealing with the watershed management, another one dealing with rainwater in the city, another one dealing with sanitation. So at the end, it's not very easy to propose a holistic NBS approach. So this is also one of the barriers
that you can't harmonize sort of a red thread through there.
But at the end, we like transforming those challenges into opportunities.
I was going to say, you spoke earlier of some of the examples of where that was very effective. Do you have any additional ones that you could share to that?
Sure. I mean, we have many examples indeed where we do the operation. Another one I could mention is about in the industry, because I spoke about local authorities, but we do work also with the industry. And we have a nice example in the Middle East where we help another company to remove the pollution in hydrocarbons, and actually there is a nice NBS enabling to remove most of the pollution. And at the same time, creating some nice biodiversity area in the middle of the desert. So, I have many others. It's at the end, it's help us also to reach our internal targets, because we do have some internal targets to regenerate water and and save water. And it's a good. We see it as a good way to reach this target.
Definitely.
I may add also that we actually, Kari was mentioning about co-benefits. We are working on building our offer to indeed better measure those co-benefits, those performance indicator, in order to demonstrate, monetize in some cases and guarantee it to our customers. And we do believe it could influence, I would say, local authorities, but also
Right.
industries
Yeah.
to better invest in
Yeah,
NBS.
yeah, it sort of taps into the
Yeah.
very core also of what you were talking about earlier, Thomas. So, but maybe just I want to go to you, Kari, because of course from I mean the Nature Conservancy's perspective, you I think if there's anybody that could keep an overview of everything that's out there, it's you guys. No pressure, but I was wondering from that perspective, do you think that nature-based solutions sort of live up to the hype, if I could phrase it like that? What are some of the most effective examples that you've seen play out?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think a question that others ask. So as I mentioned, it really varies. The magnitude of benefits are in different places and the type of intervention based on the local context. But we do have a lot of evidence out there from specific projects on the delivery of these benefits. So for example, in addition to the examples that have been shared from Veolia, we also have examples, for example, in Greater Cape Town Waterfront, where we're working to address challenges around water scarcity through invasive species removal.
Right.
And we have a great monitoring program there that's tracking those benefits over time, in addition to other benefits around climate mitigation, around involvement of local communities in training, so some benefits around livelihoods. So that's one example. We also have a number of watershed investment programs in Latin America where we've implemented nature-based solutions over the last 2 decades to address different kinds of water challenges like water quality and water quantity challenges, where we've been tracking benefit delivery there. So yes, there is evidence out there. I think that part of the challenge is sharing that information and building capacity and that technical knowledge around.
But honestly, that is so interesting to me because I hear in both the examples that you mentioned, Kari, and also the examples that you've mentioned, Gregoire, the importance of tracking those benefits. And you mentioned earlier, sort of almost in identifying the challenges, there's like also a little bit of hinting towards what the solution could be. That trust is an issue. Thomas, how do you listen to this element of tracking, of putting the data out there, showcasing the benefits, as a way to sort of like perhaps create more trust for nature-based solutions?
Yes, so certainly that's part of the principle about why disclosure does lead to change, because it allows people to see who's doing well, who's not doing well. You can be punished for not doing so well, you can be rewarded for doing better. So certainly disclosing your performance, it helps you understand where you are, and it helps your stakeholders understand where you are, and put those levers into place to improve that.
Right, definitely. We're almost approaching the end of the talk show, which also showcases how fast things can go when you're diving into a topic like this. But maybe if we look ahead to the future, right? I mean, we all know that we're at a very pivotal point. We're literally poised at the brink of the precipice, one could say. I mean, we need a 6-fold increase of effort to even reach SDG 6 by 2030. So from that perspective, knowing how urgent everything is, what do you see as like the most urgent and important way forward, things that we can take up here as the global water community when it comes to nature-based solutions? Maybe Thomas, I don't know, would you like to go first?
Well, I can comment on a couple of things that I think we need to take away from this as CDP. And one of the first things is I think we need to be capturing more explicitly how companies are implementing nature-based solutions. And in fact, we've just started a project focused on fair water footprints. This is one of the principles of fair water footprints. So we'll be more explicitly sort of tracking how companies are doing on this.
That's great.
But the other thing, just to briefly pick up on one of the things that Gregoire said around the problem of silos, that's also something else we're recognizing. We ask companies, what are your water impacts? What are you doing about them? What are your deforestation impacts? What are you doing about them? And nature-based solutions aren't always the most obvious specific thing to do about those specific issues.
Right.
They make a lot more sense when you look at it more in the round and say, well, a nature-based solution addresses that and that and that. It addresses all my targets. So we're moving to a more integrated approach that will hopefully encourage nature-based solutions to be a more obvious response.
It should be. Thank you so much. Gregoire?
Yeah, so I would say that for me the key to indeed enable this market shift, this transition, is really to try to combine nature with technology, and by putting some technology in the NBS, you can also show that you can reinsure your customer and show, okay, it's not about, of course, it's nature that will do the job, but adding some sensor, some digital solution to indeed show that you can you can measure and track this performance
Right.
is actually a way that is quite efficient, that
Yeah.
we already experienced a few times.
To not fall into the trap of a false dichotomy that it's either one or the other.
Yeah. So, it could be an easier transition.
Yeah. Finally, Kari, any final words?
Just to reiterate our vision of a world where nature-based solutions are mainstreamed along with these other solutions.
Yeah.
And if we look at changing the way that we think about living on water security, just even shifting 1% of the amount of money spent in the water sector from gray to green infrastructure, we can support and scale up nature-based solutions to the extent that we need. And we're really working on helping to address those capacity issues through our Nature for Water facility, which is providing technical assistance and knowledge sharing, and also through innovative finance structures. But really, what I'd like to see is it becoming becoming every day where water utilities are investing in the places where their water comes from, and that there are policies in place that help support and incentivize nature-based solutions going forward.
Thank you so much. I was writing along as you were saying, as you were speaking. It's about making sure that we track it, breaking those silos. But also the silence, of course, because you mentioned awareness and trust. Having blended solutions, indeed, a sort of almost paradigm shift when it comes to financing. I would say enough that we can work on. I want to thank you so much. Once again, also to our audience, you can see on the screen now what some of those benefits are. But mostly, I would say take this last opportunity to scan the QR code and make sure that you read up on the topic. I mean, awareness is a big part. We really can sort of help to spread this message, because at the very bottom line, I think, when we talk about trusting measures that can sort of drive us forward, it's also a little bit about courage and daring to do that. And I think a great first step is always getting more information about that. Thank you so much once again. Thank you to our audience for tuning in, and then we'll see you with the next talk show.